And he definitely didn't have to make a way so that we could know it. But he did. I mean, all stops out. Like, went above everything and gave the most he could possibly ever give. Because taking all church answers that we know out of our head, he wanted us to know him. That is awesome love. That is awesome love. If we don't take a moment in our lives, sometime, somewhere, to say, what is the truth of what I believe? We're not really moving forward. We're just in a cesspool of questions without seeming answers. Oh, but Amy, I go to church and I know all that they tell me. True. I grew up in church all my life. My dad's a pastor, chaplain in the military. I don't remember a time that I didn't go to church. But I'm going to get real transparent with you. I was out telling people about Jesus. Touring, speaking, singing, traveling much of the world. And I found myself in a car driving one day saying, God, I am not so positive if you're there or not. Why? I don't even remember. I don't remember what brought me to that point. I think it was just a distance that I had felt. And I just really, dared to go, what do I really believe? I mean, really believe. What do I really believe? And it was scary as all get out. I am not going to joke with you. It was the scariest moment. Because I knew if I came to another conclusion, my entire life had no purpose whatsoever. And I also knew that if I came to that point, then the rest of my life that I had already lived had been a complete failure and a lie. I realized that if I did not answer that one question of what do I really believe, what really is truth? You see, there's a difference there. It's not just what do I want to believe, because it might not be truth. If I'm not believing in truth, then my beliefs aren't helping me at all. Does that make sense? If I'm not believing in what's true, then that's not helping me at all. I'm believing lies. There's only two ways to go, right? Truth or lies. If I'm not believing the truth, then I'm believing a lie. The first question I want to delve into right now is this. Does God exist? We don't really take a lot of time for it, do we? We're just kind of cultured to say, yeah, let's hope so. But I just want to delve into it because I'm not scared of it anymore. Genesis 1:1 says this, in the beginning God. You know, a lot of people that I meet have a problem with the Bible. You know, men wrote it, which isn't true, by the way, if you'd like to research. They obviously haven't. God did inspire men to write it. But the proofs of the Bible are so unbelievable that God preserved his word. We don't have time to go into it tonight, but I mean abundantly available information on what is truth there. But do you know, most people don't have a problem with the Bible. They have a problem with the first 4 words. In the beginning, God. They have a problem with God. You see, if you believe that God is existing, then you have to say, then who is God? If you get to that point, then you have to say, who does he say he is? I'll take you back through that trail in just a second. Genesis 1:1, in the beginning. I'm going to go through just a quick little thing, and then I'm going to tell you about something. Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God. You see, God doesn't have to argue his existence. Have you ever seen that? God doesn't have to say, wait, I exist. I really do. I really do. And yet he shows us in everything. He brings us to places like this to say, hey, I want you to know me. And I want it to go deeper than what you've ever known. I want it to be based on truth, not on what you just think about me. I want you to know who I am. I want you to know me. You can see God revealed himself through his word. We read that in Hebrews 1. It says this, long ago, at many times and in many ways, God spoke to our fathers by the prophets. But in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed the heir of all things, through whom also he created the world. Later on it says, he is the radiance of the glory. Speaking of Jesus, he is the radiance. Okay, so picture glory right here, and then the radiance. Okay, he is the radiance of the glory of God, and the exact imprint of his nature. And he upholds the universe by the word of his power. After making purification for our sins, he sat down at the right hand of the Majesty on high. That's speaking of Jesus. But who is God? If we're opening this up, does God exist? Does God exist? I have this one thing that when people say, well, I just don't believe there's a God, and you can't prove that he exists. Normally I don't get in debates like that anyway, because they're really not hungry or wanting to know any answers, and I really have nothing to prove. I think God can prove himself. So if they want to know, I'm more than willing to tell them, but I used to. Oh my word. My dad, I'd go to school and he'd be like, Amy, seriously, God doesn't need you to prove him. And I was like, yeah, but they need to know, Dad. And he'd go, Amy, that's not the way you show them. Prove there is no God. Now that one's a hard one. In fact, I don't have the faith to believe that there isn't a God. I just don't have that much faith. You see, to prove that there is no God, you'd have to be everywhere at all times, searching under every rock, and maybe not even on our planet, on another planet. You'd have to be omnipresent to prove that there was no God, right? Intuition tells us, you see, it's natural for man to believe that there is a God. The abnormal mind is the only kind of mind that cannot accept the fact of God's existence. All the evidence points to the conclusive fact, William Evans once said this, all the evidence points to the conclusive fact that this universal faith in the existence of God is innate in man and comes from rational intuition. In fact, in Psalms 14:1 it says, the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. The fool. I know that most of us in here probably believe that there is a God. And so you're like, Amy, could you just move on? Like, we all believe that. But do we know beyond a shadow of a doubt? You know? Like when those questions come, am I the only one in here that has ever questioned whether I was believing something because people told me it or because I just wanted to believe it? All right. So are we scared to ask the harder questions? Don't be. You know what I came up with? What I found? There's answers. He is the answer. And there's no fear. There's no fear with him. There's none. There's no answer that I need to know right now that isn't going to be answered in him. I found something really amazing. There's this book that I found called Eternity in Their Hearts. And I just, for interesting facts, wanted to share with you guys some of it. You know, my dad used to tell me all the time, he'd say, Amy, no matter where man is found, they're always found worshiping something. And I thought, okay, all right, they worship their ancestors, they worship the rocks, whoever it is. And how that in Romans it talks about how that God will reveal himself as they accept the truth that they've been given, right? So let's say a person comes up and hits the rock and he's like, oh man, this rock is bigger than me, it hurt me, like it's got to be bigger than me, so it must be God. And then one day they see the tree, the shadow shining down on the rock, and they're like, wait a minute, this tree is bigger, and it moves and it grows, and it must be God, because this rock isn't God. Now, they're accepting little truth, and I know this is an elementary like little illustration, but it works. Then one day they realize, wait a minute, that tree is growing up. That tree is growing up to something, the sun, and then whatever. And then God will continue to reveal himself, whether that be bringing his word through other people or whatever. But all my life, I didn't know some of the stories of people that have been found on those islands and found where nobody could have known, found long before Jesus ever came, like unbelievable stuff. Anyway, okay, I get excited. Incredible as it seems, literally thousands of Christian missionaries down through history have been startled by the exuberant welcome even from some of Earth's remotest people. In Central African Republic, in the town of Sibuit, there was a missionary named something Rosenau, something like that. And his colleagues came in the 1920s. These people had a creator. They had never heard of Jesus, but they had a creator who sent his son. Koro was the name that they named him. And they forgot what it was that he accomplished for mankind. Like they couldn't remember through their generations. And were waiting for the messengers that would probably, that would come to restore the forgotten knowledge to them. Like these people had never seen a Bible. And yet God had revealed himself to them. The Incas, under King, this was one of my favorite stories, under King, another one, Pachacuti or something like that, in AD, long time ago, 1438 to 1471. So this is like 15th century Peru, okay? Their god, which had unbelievable resemblance to the God of the Bible, was called Viracocha, who greatly resembled Jesus until missionaries came and told them of Jesus. And then all of these people started coming to Christ. A Norwegian missionary in 1867 came to Calcutta, India. Oh, this precious story. I'm just going to read it, where they became fluent in the Santal language, and then they began to tell them about Jesus. To their surprise, having never heard the gospel, they were electrified by the message and explained that this God was, and they translated him, the Kurjir, which means genuine God. Later, their stories would tell that somehow they had been shown the truth. Later, 85,000 believers, once they found the truth, were baptized with these missionaries, and later tens of thousands became Christians in this one town. God revealed himself. Even in Ethiopia, their God was Magano, the omnipotent creator of all that is, who had a son until they met Jesus. The Chinese called him Shang-Ti. The Koreans, Hananium, the Great One, until they found that was Jesus. We have a lot of names for him too. Reason would tell us. Cause and effect would tell us. Design causes the need for a designer. Psalms 19:1 says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. There was a illustration that I found about our bodies. It was pretty amazing. And the design in the heavens. I'm only going to read a section of it. The Earth's entire oil, coal, and wood reserves would fuel the sun's energy output to the Earth alone for only a few days. Did you get that? Mm-hmm. Everything we have on Earth could only fuel the sun for a few days. That's it. The distance between the Earth and the sun is 93 million miles, and that is just our closest star in our galaxy. There's so many things about the order of the universe that literally just wow me consistently.